It. Hi. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Do you see me? I don't think you do.
No, I can't see you.
Okay. Why is this never
It's
so
probably
seamless?
on the left side. Like, wait. Yeah, it's on the left side. Oh, but you're on your phone, right? Okay, wait. I think,
Yeah.
wait, let me join in and see how that works. Listen, it's a struggle. I get it. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, I don't use Zoom. I don't know actually what I use. Oh, there we go. How stupid. Okay, no, I just hid.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wait, have you like ever done like a show or something on like on your phone or like on Zoom?
Yeah, but I feel like they keep changing the software and then redesigning it slightly and placing it somewhere else. Well, this looks like it's better design now.
Okay, well, I don't remember
Cool.
any change being there, but okay.
I usually use it on my laptop. I think that's the difference.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
So you see everything. Yeah.
Okay. So it's okay if I like start?
Yeah, let's go.
Okay. So obviously, this is just out of curiosity, but like how did you even like start making music? Like does it go all the way back to your childhood or
Um, I think I did, if you mean start making music, I think I started quite late, probably around 21, 22 years old.
mm-hmm.
Um, where I just got interested in the idea of writing my own music,
Mm-hmm.
um, as some sort of creation. I was at that point studying film.
Okay.
Um, yeah, so I was starting to be I was thinking of being a filmmaker, but as time was passing, I was just not sure of that because it required a lot of money and capital to make a
Mm-hmm.
film, which I
Mm-hmm.
don't have. And I don't know if I really wanted to deal with like 20 people to make a piece of art. I did some short films and it was fun, but yeah, it wasn't really feeding anything. But once I started working on writing music, it fed something. And I think I just at that point in my life, I was just really eager to have something to start with,
Mm-hmm.
which I could call my own
Mm-hmm.
and start off my life. So yeah, in a way, just sort of I slid slowly towards music. It
Nice.
wasn't some like, yeah.
Have people ever
Where are you
seen?
exactly? Are you Bombay?
I'm in Bombay, yeah, I'm in Bombay.
Oh, I want to go Times Square. Yeah.
Okay. Wait, so have people seen those few videos that you've made? Like,
No, actually, like, I mean, I made a few. It's incredibly terrible, but
hey, it can't be that bad. It can't be that bad.
oh yeah, yeah, they can. There's a reason there's a reason like very few student filmmakers like become actual filmmakers. No, they were like, I think they were clearly made by someone who had the potential to see a good marriage between film and music, but wasn't
Mhm.
necessarily a good writer of stories in that sense. That's the real skill when it comes to filmmaking. I would say I wasn't a very good storyteller, but I was good, which is why I fell into music videos later, right? So I felt like I could marry like the image and
Mhm.
sound quite well,
Mhm.
but that's not what making a film is about. So yeah, that's I think what I learned out of that. That I'm not necessarily going to be a director and a
Mhm.
storyteller like that.
Mhm.
That kind of thing. It had to it had to be more personal.
I mean, to be fair, you're doing it with your music, so you're doing it well, and you're
Yeah.
brilliant at it. So, wait, you think you'll ever go back to like making film though? Like maybe give it a shot again?
Uh yeah, definitely. I think at some point. I don't know actually. Probably not. I might even torture myself again. Your voice has started feeding back.
I
I
think
think
that's
someone
because there you go. Okay, there was someone who
other
was kind of unmuted there.
Hardik.
Yeah.
You did. Yeah, that was a culprit.
So, any inspiration specifically? Anyone who did inspire you, like music wise?
Music wise,
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm the kind of person I would say I wasn't inspired musically, but I am inspired by life stories.
Okay.
Um, yeah, so that I'm one of those people who likes to see where some of my people, the people I like in their life, or what was their trajectory.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's usually not musicians. It's a lot. It's very varied. It can be like scientists I used to like really look up to, or
Okay.
mathematicians.
That is so
Um,
cool. Tell me more. Tell me more.
yeah, I'm trying to think now. So I guess I really like Charlie Chaplin, for example. I really enjoyed his life, and mm, I'm trying to think of other people. Godel.
Mm-hmm.
There's random ass people. There's this. Yeah, I mean, honestly, trying to think it's been so long. Off the top of my head, there was nothing directly which inspired me. I was just inspired to do something with my life.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't like some spark of some brilliant musician who's like, yes, you should become a musician.
Okay,
In
that
fact, I would say I've seen more amazing music shows in the last 3, 4 years, which would have inspired me to become a musician, as opposed to back then.
wait, really?
Yeah,
Like what?
yeah,
Any specific people? Any
yeah.
specific?
Lots of. Just last week, I went and saw this artist called Mitski,
Oh yeah,
if you
let's
know
keep
her.
my yeah, let's keep.
Yeah, and I thought she's absolutely incredible. And I was like, damn, if I'd seen this when I was like in my early 20s, I'd been like, yeah, that's incredible. Uh, that was some really, yeah, so there are a lot of inspiration. I think that's the thing, no, you don't get to see a lot of stuff in India like that. So
Ex-
it's hard to be inspired necessarily.
mm,
And when there was no internet at that time, which was, uh, I mean, there was no YouTube, so there was no like instantly seeing some really amazing stuff from behind before your time or stuff. So there was nothing to be really inspired by. So
mhm.
when I did go to San Francisco, that was the first time in my life I would say I was actually seeing things, seeing culture which inspired me or seeing anything. So yeah, and then I mean I came back, and just because of that experience, I appreciated a lot more of Indian culture,
Mhm.
stuff which I had just not paid attention to because you know you tend to like ignore the stuff closest to you.
Mhm.
And then look for stuff in that. So then I just started finding stuff I enjoyed, like films, old films, which I really like, old Amitabh Bachchan films,
Mhm. Nice.
Rajesh. Yeah, there's just so much good music in that. So much like some nice stories and stuff like that.
Absolutely. There's so much good music out there, and especially like in India, I'm kind of glad like the love for indie and electronic music is like out there now. But I think
I think
back
it's
then
really blown up now.
it's suddenly blown up, right? Like I think
Yeah, it's
like
awesome.
people used to listen to Above and Beyond, and I think that was pretty much it, like back then. But I don't think people listen to electronic as much, and I still think it's super underrated if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just growing in just every year is growing super fast, and I think it just exploded, especially post pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
I have just been there's been a deluge of like new artists who I've like been privy to or just like been exposed to, and I think just everything went up. The quality of the production, the quality of the music, it just went up. I think this it's just the generation changed, and the newer generation is uh I don't know, it's just catching up to a standard which is higher
Higher.
around the world. Yeah. Yeah, I do,
Are
it's
there
like that.
any um musicians that you would recommend like that in terms of like
Yeah, why not? Like I became sort of friends with this young group of kids. I love saying kids now. Okay, there's this guy called like Udbhav and Karun. I don't know if you know any of these people.
Oh, top, yeah, I know.
Yeah, I think this is very incredibly good writers.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, actually, and I think they're probably going to write the next generation of great Hindi music, for example, with actually good writing and good music. And I think I find it interesting. A lot of them inspired by I think Kanye West. which I think is it's a radical shift in what inspires people in India in terms of as a musician, as an artist. So,
Mhm.
and I can see that, which is really interesting. And I think that it starts like that, and then eventually, then you start looking around, being like, okay, now what am I going to do?
Mhm.
What mark will I leave? What are my new inspirations? But I mean, I see that generation of kids really writing incredible music.
Okay,
In the middle, nobody wrote anything. It was kind of like, meh, I don't know.
What do you
There was
mean?
like this. I mean, I feel like since at least I began,
Mhm.
which would be 2011 or 12,
Mhm.
11, I'd say, which is now almost damn, it's
13
13 years
years.
ago.
Fuck.
Yeah, I feel like, I just didn't hear anything interesting, um, which interested me for most of that period, except
Mhm.
over the last 2, 3 years, which interested me in India. Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, yeah.
We have like a lot of questions on the chat box. Okay. Did you stay in
So,
India all throughout? Would the inspiration be there?
uh, no, I think in my case, I think I really needed to exit. I mean, I actually tried to stay in India. So when I basically, firstly, I didn't live in India my whole life. I used to live in Dubai till I was 12.
Okay.
And then my father passed away suddenly, and we moved to
Oh,
India. And
I'm sorry.
then yeah, why'd you do that, Aishwarya? And then, I mean, for like 6, 7 years, I was just, yeah, I don't know, I was just living life, but I was quite dead inside. I realized that later, of course. And then, I mean, school ended, and I didn't know what that meant. My mom was also not a very educated person, so she didn't really know what goes on after college, like school. So she just supported me in whatever I wanted to do. And so I thought, okay, first I'll try, because I basically did a few things when I was a kid. I got into graphic design when I was 15 because of the internet. And I started this random internet company and sold it when I was 16. So there was all these other things I used to do at home. Um, and so initially I thought, oh, I should join the tech industry.
Oh, fuck.
Um, yeah, and then I just found myself very unhappy with just working on computers all day long. Ironic because that's what it's come to again. But so I joined some good college in Gurgaon called IILM for like a year, and
Mm-hmm.
I would not recommend that experience to any human being. Uh,
Oh God, I'm so sorry.
I went to that college, and it was. I mean, I met at least a couple of my bandmates there. So I mean, I'm grateful for that. But there was definitely a day where I was like, I had an argument with the teacher, and I was like, I kind of know more than you. This is,
Oh shit.
yeah.
Okay.
I was like, I mean, I really, it was really dumped, and I realized it's so much ego and nonsense going on. So I was like, okay, I'm not growing here at all. Um, so then I literally just looked up some college in India. I had a good portfolio because I've been working on some art and film and stuff through my kid thing. So I sent all that, and stuff worked out, and I got a few offers. So I chose the best offer for me, and which was in San Francisco's Art Institute, and I went there, and immediately within 3 months I was like challenged. I was just like, oh, the hell was I doing back there? Um, yeah, I think it just, the thing is, and especially right now I'm at Harvard, because my wife is doing a year there, as a fellowship, and as her, as a spouse, I get free classes, at Harvard. So again, just going
Nice.
into this education system, immediately you see why it's produced a lot of uh, great thinkers, and it's because it teaches you to question, it teaches you how to think, it forces you to discuss stuff openly, whether you're comfortable or not. So that's a strong education system, and that's something which was not even prevalent in the college. So I think for me, at least, it was very important to leave and uh, come back, especially because there was no internet,
Hmm.
which could give me a secondary education. And even though actually I would say the internet was my primary college in terms of music and everything else,
Mm-hmm.
at those formative years in my life, I needed something to feed me, and it was because I did not have internet. I did, but it was like 0.3 kilobytes per second internet, so you're like you're downloading one MP3 every 2 months. I'm not even exaggerating. An MP3 every 2 months. So at that point, yeah, I'm personally glad I took that decision. I mean, it was a very difficult decision in many ways, but yeah, it set me up for life, and I don't look back.
I'm so glad you had the courage to do that. I mean, you did quite a lot, but it's insane. Okay,
Oh,
Navratan, why don't you ask him this? Okay, so basically, okay, yeah, go ahead.
Hi, Suryakant.
hi man.
I wanted to ask, what was the first song you've ever released? Like,
Ever released
yeah,
or
be at Peter Cat or Lifafa itself.
yeah, it was a Peter Cat song. I think actually I never released.
Uh,
We never released a
mhm.
single. I just released that album Cinema. That was the first thing I
Oh, I
released in my.
remember your mother in it, right? The cover
Yes.
art.
Yeah, yeah.
I love it. I love it.
Nice.
Okay, so
Yeah.
that was your first ever album release.
That's the first thing I ever released as anything.
Okay, because
Yeah.
this is something which is unknown to me. Like, everything I've
Yeah.
looked online about you and the band, like, that's the
Yeah.
missing question I've always had in my mind.
Yeah.
Alright,
Well, you got the answer now.
yeah. I can sleep peacefully tonight.
Okay,
Go
so
ahead.
any unreleased albums?
Any unreleased album? No, dude, it takes me like sucks the soul out of me to make an album. I'm not gonna not release an album.
So there's no music that's
That's literally like being pregnant for a baby, and then you're like, fuck it, I'm just gonna take this back, and that's not how.
fucking
Yeah, let's go
Okay.
back.
Yeah, I don't want to skip anymore. Uh, oh god. Okay, we have lots of questions in the comment section. Okay, how do you get such a good bunch of writers? I meant more about the novelty, let's say people joining in from different parts of India.
Oh, I don't understand what you mean. How do you get a bunch of good writers? Uh, like are you asking me who writes my music?
Krish?
Yeah, I wanted to ask, like, as in you said that
Okay.
you come across a bunch of really good writers, right?
Yeah.
So what I found is that there's sort of a stagnant plateau that is formed in the Indian music industry right now, because I see a sort of particular genre being followed. So where does the novelty actually come from? Do you get writers from let's say different domains coming reaching out to you, or how does it happen? I mean, more about the novelty part. Where does this particular blend of music come from?
Also, at least in my case, I do all my writing. So, um, the people I was talking about are writing their own music also. So I was referring to the lyrics. I thought they're just writing very good lyrics. Those guys are straight up from like East Delhi, or something. The people I'm talking about. So they're an interesting. They that so see. I'm one of that generation which grew up with one foot in the West and one foot in the East.
Mm-hmm.
So my Hindi is pretty decent, and my English is probably better than my Hindi. So that I now the group I'm talking about, I would say the opposite is more true, where Hindi is more of their primary language. So they're just writing deeper Hindi poetry, uh, stuff like that. So it's really just it's all relative to where you come from and who you are. And India is full of so much diversity that like that's why hip hop really blew up, right? Because um it became it's such a crazy diverse place that you need something common to unite people around the country culturally, uh, which ironically shouldn't sometimes belong to India. Like English, in a funny way, was some sort of uniting a factor because it's one language none of us wrote and it allows us. So in a way, you can see hip hop doing the same thing, which is this form of music and expression became common because there's nobody having to push like here's Punjabi, the South. These things do play out, like cultural like stuff does play out. So I don't know if that's answering your question, but I just think it's a generation of people who are just more aware of aware of the past, aware of what's happening around the world, and aware of the standard required to compete with the people they look up to. So they're just putting more work into it. And they do see it as a proper like business with a sense of friendly competition, which is like, I want to do better, I want to write better songs, I want to do all that. So I don't know if that answers the question at all, but yeah.
Sort of like the internet as a platform has sort of has come up with this thing that we are getting to exposed to new dimensions of music.
Yeah. Everything is about everything is internet is the internet is the absolute mecca of college, of studying. Everything else is secondary. You can learn everything you want on the internet. I that's how I educated myself mostly. And I think everybody's just that's why people can produce music faster, younger. It's the natural sort of evolution of humanity, like people just start doing what the previous generation could faster, and then new shit pops up which you can't do. And the internet just sped that shit up.
Yeah. And as you said that you had some exposure to graphic designing and then you wanted to be in tech. How did the transition from film school to, let's say, music? Was there an influence or how did that come up, the music element?
It's just I'm a very disorganized, very indisciplined human being. I was just and I'm not a great collaborator. So it's I was just life was pushing me and I just went with it. And one thing which is important is that you need people around you to encourage you. And I think at that point in my life, when I started writing music, there were some people around me who'd be like, "Whoa, that's great. Why don't you do it again? Do more of it." Just like some people just saying shit like stuff like that to you at the appropriate time can put that feeling in you that you have something to do. And it's important to find people you trust because it's very easy to get caught up in. I mean, there's always this fear, which is that you're not getting the correct feedback and that you're not getting honest and sincere sort of feedback on whether you have where your music is, whether you have the potential to make a career out of it. Because that's a different state, that's a different sort of struggle. Making music is one thing, and you can write music. You can spend your whole life and make music, and be fine. But if the day you choose to make a career out of it, you are really asking for trouble. And that means you need honest and sincere feedback and the right encouragement from the right people. So I think it's a lot of luck. I think honestly, I was just very lucky that I found some of the right people were just there to encourage me, and I thought they had great taste. And it's a bit of delusion. You sort of put yourself into a delusional, like, yeah, you got to believe. It's like you got to believe you can do it, regardless. And you just sort of blindly believe you can do it. Like I was never afraid I would fail, even though I have failed several times in the middle in trying to do some things. But at no point did I even consider the fact that I won't make it as a musician and that I can't make it as a music as a career. So, bit of delusion goes a long way. Is what I'm saying.
Holy shit. That's actually such honest advice. Like, but how did it feel for you to actually like put yourself out there as an artist? Because it's insanely fucking scary, honestly.
Well, but I think when I started, there was no space to get feedback on your art immediately, so it wasn't so scary.
Okay.
Like I put an album out on Bandcamp in 2011. There was no Instagram. Well, I think there was, but I can't even remember there was Instagram in 2011. Okay. But there was no place where people could just quickly start talking. There was no place people immediately give you mass feedback. Like right now you put a music video on YouTube and immediately your comments will start
Mm-hmm.
telling you everything. You're getting instant feedback on your art. whatever you want to call it. Same, you release a piece of album or you release an album, you'll get feedback. You put an album called basically what I'm trying to say is this immediate feedback from people and the community. So that's really challenging because now you're being tested, and this is something you might work on for years and put your soul into, and then you put it out, and then some idiot will. And it's the most human thing. The most human thing is that there'll be 200 great comments, and then you'll read the 201st comment. Someone wrote a critical thing about you, and it could be pretty accurate, and you know it. And then you'll forget all the 200 things which were nice things people said about you, and you'll focus on the 201st. So no, it's everybody does that. So so there are many steps to doing that. I think the best approach is put your art out and move on to the next piece of art immediately. Don't even bother with the engagement of people in it. I mean, focus on making sure it gets out there, marketing, all that stuff, making art for art, more art, and all that stuff. But as far as being an artist, I think you want to be in the spaces where you have to have your people who you listen to and you get good feedback from, and you go to your shows and you really perform your music there and work on that and work on your art. And I think there's no need to be scared. The only reason you can be scared is because you're afraid of criticism. And I mean, honestly, yeah, I mean, it's fine to be criticized. It's kind of fun too. So I don't know, it's up to you.
Really? Okay. That's interesting. So there's been no the 201st comment that got to you?
Oh, of course, there have been many of them. There's been many times I'd be like, shit, that person really figured it out. Um, no, because if you're smart enough, you've already thought about all the insecurities you have. And you should know the truth about yourself. I can go back, I can definitely listen to any song and point out as a objective critic how I'd shit on it. And then I move past that. Yeah, absolutely. So I've already gone through that stage, and then I just look beyond that. I'm like, okay, I know this is what's problematic with this, blah, blah, blah. And then I'll just be like, okay, but I like it, so I move on, and it's done. But yeah, it's not like I put a song that I've not thought about the crappy part about it. Yeah.
I think that's the most artist thing I've ever heard. They criticize their art the most. But this might be sort of a universal question for all artists, I feel. But let's say I am an artist and I've been trying for a couple of years and I kind of believe it's pretty good, but I'm not really making money out of it, or it's not actually getting the reach or engagement that it probably deserves. Do you think I should stop making art?
Yeah, I know. Well, it depends. So no, you should never stop. That's not at all what I'm saying. You definitely have to have, I think, the sense of self-awareness to modify what's happening, modify some aspect of that process.
Okay.
And you have to, I mean, a part of being an artist, I guess, is slightly being like a businessman and just really figuring out what's wrong in the process. If you feel like let's say, for example, you put out a film and you notice immediately that it's getting a lot of love from uh, a certain demographic, and I mean, for example, now you can just use analytics, I guess, if you have to be practical and find out what happened, right?
Right.
For example, and then it's a bit of let me think about this before. So this is how I would reframe it. Essentially, my motto or the mantra in my life is I kind of hold myself responsible for whatever's happening.
Okay.
So that's not true for everybody, but in my case, that's the delusion I work with. So when I put something out, I don't even question whether it's good or bad. Um, because and let's say I put some piece, and I obviously this has happened with me also. Like I put some music out and I don't get as much good feedback or the results I was hoping for it from it because I thought it was better than it was. Then what I do is I'll either move on immediately
Mm-hmm.
and I look back and see what went wrong in terms of was it um what did I just not do enough marketing? Was maybe the mix or master of the final file? Because I have some sort of inherent faith in the masses,
Okay.
which is
Mm-hmm.
like I feel like people are quite sensitive to when something works and doesn't work. And often things don't work for the reason things don't work can be very small but subtle reasons. Like sometimes you can write an incredible song, but it just doesn't sound good on speakers. Um,
Yeah.
so if you don't, and if so, all these processes have to work out for the song to be successful. So, and it doesn't matter what the idea of the song is. If it just doesn't sound good on speakers as an object of sound,
Mm-hmm.
you failed in that regard. So there's always some point in the entire chain of your release which might have popped off. And now you could be in a situation where you just, in a way, didn't write a great song.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the point, that's the trickiest point, and that's where you need really accurate feedback from people you trust. And you have to keep working on that craft, and you have to give it time, and you have to be willing to lose a bunch of shit and time. And uh, I don't know, it's there's a lot of sacrifice in that process. And the question is, you have to ask yourself: is this the kind of life I want? Is it not? So it's important not to get caught up in this idea of being an artist, I think, and also question, is this the life you want to live? And if it is, just you realize what the sacrifices are which come with it, which is not a lot. It can
Mm-hmm.
you gain some control of your own time, but you give up uh yeah, certain easy movement towards comfort initially. And yeah, it's a gamble, You should be realistic about it. I hope that made sense.
No, that makes total sense. Thank you so much for that.
Okay.
Okay, wait. We have a question. Okay, so which place, Mumbai, India, or outside, was it exactly that gave you the appropriate feedback and sort of started your music career?
Um, so in my case, I think there's been a few people who I've randomly trusted
Mm-hmm.
from around the world, For some reason, I just believe when you sort of just assign somebody to be that person sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Sometimes it may be your girlfriend or wife,
Mm-hmm.
or it can be someone who plays music with you. Sometimes it can just be a friend who you think has great taste. So for me, it's also been like that. When I just started making music, it was a friend I had called Jeffrey,
Okay.
um, App, who I thought had great taste in music, and he did. I just trusted his taste, and then I also used to date a girl back then who was also a music nerd, and she also used to give me really good feedback.
Nice.
So it's just yeah, it was just a few people you gotta trust. You don't need 10, 20 people, but you need to have these people. So for me, it's changed over the years. Obviously, I'm not with that girl anymore, so
Mm-hmm.
that didn't work out. But then as we grew, and as we moved forward, there was like this guy called Jerome, who like was someone who invested in our music, and I found that he had
Mm-hmm.
immaculate taste, so I started trusting him. And I feel like every time I've gone to a point where I didn't have anybody to ask feedback from, I struggled the most.
Oh, okay.
And my music did the worst then, I would say, because I basically made it in my own bubble. Um, and in your own bubble, you can live through heaven and hell in your music. So it's really important to get out of there and be brave and just get some people to give you accurate feedback.
Fuck. Okay, that's brilliant advice. Okay, this might be a little difficult. Okay. What do you think is your most underrated song?
Oh, my most underrated song.
Yeah. Huh?
I think Wahin Ka Wahin.
Okay.
Yeah, if you heard that. Yeah, I think that's a fucking incredible song. Yeah. And it's not even me being, I'm like, sometimes I just like, I've had situations where I've not I'd never listen to my music, but there've been times where I've just been outside and a little like whatever drunk or something, and somebody played, and I was like, damn, that is awesome.
Mhm,
Untrue.
mhm.
I don't know. I mean,
Can I just add to that question? And first of all, yeah, I agree with Rachna. I think it's really untrue. It's one of our favorites. I also want to ask, what would you say is your least favorite song out of the songs that have been released, even in the YouTube albums that are out?
ooh, that's an easy question. I honestly look back at each song and all I see are the problems I had with that song. That's why it's even Wahi Ka Wahi, I really love that song, but I wish I had mixed and sang it a bit better. So there's
Mhm.
always something. So it's very difficult for me to put that. Wait, is that what you asked me? I forgot.
Least favorite song, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
least favorite song. Yeah, yeah. Wait, let me think. Mm, Yeah, so I can't say that I don't like any of the songs as songs, but if you ask me what the least favorite end result for a song was, in
Mhm.
terms of how it came out as a recording, I could tell you, I think the one I really fucked up was a song called Remains,
Oh, yeah.
in Bismillah, because actually I think I screwed that recording up, in terms of it just doesn't sound like how it's supposed to sound, and the way it
Mhm.
sounds live. Um, and at some point, I definitely want to correct that somehow. But yeah, for me, I think that's one of my favorite songs, and I was not able to capture the recording aspect of it correctly
I
or
see.
perform it the way. Yeah,
I also had another
that's the worst
question.
thing about all this, no, because you can work on a song for like 5, 6 years, and
Mhm.
it all comes down to that MP3 or that WAV file. So you can work on it perfectly for 5, 6 years. You can do everything and build it towards this terrific song and what you think is perfect, and then you record it and just for some reason you thought it was okay, and then you put it out, you're like, oh, I wasted all that effort.
Right.
And yeah, that was maddening, infuriating. Yeah.
Aishwarya, is it okay to ask another question?
Listen, you can ask as much as you want.
Okay, so I think I get that feeling a little bit because um, I was not technologically adept at all, but it's your music that sort of inspired me to start getting into video editing. And so I
Oh,
started making little edits. My friend also helped me out.
cool.
He also does the same stuff. Uh, and yeah, I mean, the good ones we try to post on Instagram, but the second it's out, sometimes it's like, oh, it needed changes. So my question
Yeah,
is about the music videos that Peter Cat in particular has.
yeah.
How does that process go? Because it's just personally a very big inspiration to me in terms of how creative I'm getting there. Like video editing is not something that's stopping. It's not a job anymore. But the another critique is that I'm not making edits for any other songs. I'm just doing it for Peter Cat and Lifafa. So how does your process for that work? The music videos.
Okay, that's so the way I approach. So except for one music video, which is the Where the Money Flows music video, um, no other video has been planned. Uh, so I literally most of the videos are in the moment spurts of something.
Mhm.
Uh, And generally, so my process generally I'll tell you my dream process. My dream process in life would be I walk around in the world and I
Okay.
always have a group of 3 or 4 people,
Mhm.
a cameraman, whatever, a light guy. 3
Mhm.
people are following me for the rest of my life, all right? And because the way I see music videos are basically, I just see things happening in the world and I see potential music videos. Um, so I'm very bad at which in reference to my filmmaking days again, I'm very bad at sitting down and planning a music video. Like like a
Makes
short list,
sense.
it'll be like this. Yeah, I just can't do that. My mind doesn't work that way. So the way my mind works is like I see something and I sometimes just luckily my head just sees it, my mind just sees it as something which could have this music playing over it, and then
Mhm.
I'll shoot something, and then later I'll take it home and I'll start working on the edit of that thing, and I'll feel like okay, it needs more stuff. So then You
Mhm.
figure out what you need to shoot, and this is my process. Then I'll figure out what needs to be shot and what I need to fake and all that stuff. So the edit is almost guiding me towards finishing the film. Does that make sense? I'm not actually editing at the end. The edit is almost how I start the process.
That's interesting. Even for I'm
Yeah.
Home, like that's a beautiful music video.
Yeah, so that's literally me and my manager. We were touring China. I was touring China at that time for some reason. And we were like, hey, let's go see the Great Wall of China. Uh, that's kind of amazing. And we're like, all right, so we got that itself a crazy story. Like we had to
Okay.
switch three cabs and like bargain with cab drivers. And since obviously there was no language, there was no way to communicate. We were literally like drawing glyphs and making comics on a piece of paper. Anyway, somehow we got to the Great Wall of China. And then this guy says, here, you have to go on the staircase. This will lead you to the wall. So we walk like 500 steps. We get on top, and there's this Chinese dude that like selling alcohol. We're like, hey, cool. So can you have a drink? He's like, no, you Indians. And we're like, yeah. So in order to go inside this into the wall, you have to arm wrestle with me. Uh, so he makes us sit, and he's hammered. He makes us sit down on this table. He's a huge guy, and like obviously destroys me. Like not even 2 seconds. The arm wrestling. Like, okay, this is ridiculous. I'm gonna go in. He's like, no. This is like some weird dragon guarding the Great Wall. Anyway, then my manager's at arm wrestling with him. My manager also loses. And then we're like, okay, we lost. Now what? He's like, fuck it. Then he gives us like a couple of bottles of like this Chinese alcohol. I forgot what it's
What?
called. Super strong. Anyway, so we were like, okay, there's a few more steps. So we started drinking and we're like, okay, let's go see. And we get to the top and like it opens and you see this empty stretch of the Great Wall of China. And we're like, insane. And immediately I was like, oh, this is music video territory. And so I give my phone to my manager, and then that's it. We just started shooting because
Mhm.
I saw it and I was like, oh, this makes sense. So I'm home. In my head, I always saw it as a long walk in some sort of road or clouds. So you see, that situation just happened. I didn't have any control of it. And it just so happened in that moment, I was like, okay, I know this is. So then I got home and we had this great footage of me walking hammered on the Great Wall of China. And then that's not enough to be a music video, right? So
Right.
so then you sit down, you're like, okay, now how do I finish this? What does the song need? So I
Mm.
put it on the sort of the timeline for editing, and I'm like, okay. Then I think about how I can finish it, what the crescendo in the song needs, and then I start going towards, okay, we need to shoot more stuff. And then so it's like half film, half documentary, half whatever.
Right. That's
I mean,
nice.
that's a process. I don't know if that helps you. Yeah.
Would you
At
say
least
it's
that's my process.
consistent?
It's obviously a very inconsistent way to make
Right.
films. But then I'm not a filmmaker, so
That
I
makes
don't
sense.
worry about it. But it's yeah. I mean, like I said, we made another music video also during the pandemic, which hasn't come out yet. Uh, which will come out with the next Peter Cat album. But
Mhm.
um, that was also a planned video, and that was also a really like terrible process. So I don't know. Maybe I'm just not meant for yeah,
Mhm.
because yeah, I don't know. It's I've come to peace with terms with it. That's all I can say. I would not encourage that process for anybody else. But if you're asking me how I go about making films,
Mm.
that's how I've gone about it.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
The Great Wall of China story was so.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Oh God. We have okay. Why not play We're Getting Married more often for live sets? I've heard it live at the Mic Drop event in Delhi a few years back, and it was one of the best things I've experienced.
Okay, well, we do play it now and then. It depends on my mood.
Arey.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So, any musician you like to collaborate with?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know. So sometimes I've collaborated with two, three people in my life, and they were just random people, and sometimes it was great. So it's about chemistry. So I can't imagine. Uh, I can't name somebody, no. I can't say like I want to collaborate with that person. What
Uh,
the process would work out for me is somehow I would meet this person and we would be sitting somewhere and jamming and something will work or not. So, and it doesn't depend how great or good or famous that musician is. It's really about chemistry, and it's really lucky when you find someone you have good chemistry with in
mhm.
any sphere of life. Then you collaborate with that person. It doesn't matter who they are, and you immediately know if it's working or not. Yeah.
I really love that you said that it doesn't matter if they're famous or not, because I've honestly, obviously I won't name names here, but then many a times like two really, really fucking incredible artists, and then they come together and the song
And
is pretty
it's
shitty, and I'm just like, I could have gone back to a time when I
oh
didn't hear that.
yeah, oh that's happened like so many times, and that's when you realize that oh it's all bullshit. You have to really, it's true chemistry comes from like it's two people being in a room and figuring something out.
Absolutely, because like it just sounds like
Yeah.
it sounds
Really
bad.
bad color.
Honestly, it sounds really bad. Like,
Yeah,
okay, we
agree,
have.
fully agreed.
How difficult is music production in terms of years, energy, and money? Connection
Oh
to how
shit.
crucial is being connected to people who are relevant in the industry?
Well, for the second part, I would say if you have good connections, that can't hurt. It's always good to be socially connected and be
Mm-hmm.
liked and be respected or be part of a community. Okay, so firstly, I think some of the best work always comes out when you work in some sort of group.
Right. Okay.
All right, so a team, something, some group. It's just so you need to develop that for sure. But in terms of being connected to people in the industry to further your career,
Mm-hmm.
that's that's a more interesting question. I can't answer that because I that's not the route I took. My route has been very disconnected from the music industry.
Okay, nice.
Still is, honestly. So I would say I'm kind of an outsider in the whole process.
Mm-hmm.
But the the way it works now again is the internet where you really like find your way in terms of people will come to you if you do something and it starts doing well on the internet. People will come to you. You won't have to make connections. People will just come to you, and then it's up to you to sort out what you want to work with, who you feel good about. Um, so it's really just again, it goes back to the simple thing, which is like forget all that shit and you just focus on the work, uh, and you figure out how to really put it out properly in the
Mm-hmm.
best way possible to so that the maximum number of people can see it, um, and then wait. Yeah, it's like then yeah, there's a lot of patience, and it all takes time, and I would say so. It's much faster. I would say music production now is quite easy compared to what it used to be. In
Mm-hmm.
probably a couple of years, you could come to a pretty decent point of music production, but maybe what's hard to gauge is whether you develop the taste, and that's what is can take years, and that is a more conscious process than people realize. You have to expose yourself to lots of music, sometimes expose yourself to stuff you don't like and
Mm-hmm.
sit around and try and find a context for it. Even in the worst form, even the music you despise the most, you'll find stuff you like. So in a many ways, it's like sometimes it just takes years to absorb ideas and let them, sit around and mix up and become something original. So and then, like finding your own voice or
Mm-hmm.
your own style, that is probably the hardest part. And something I really struggle with myself, where I haven't yet to myself found something which is truly original. Uh,
Hmm.
in so that's at least something many people spend their whole life doing. Some people do it immediately, but it's important to know that that is something you should aspire for sure. uh,
So,
yeah,
okay.
it'll take your whole life is all I'm saying. You'll never
Oh,
really
you
get
have.
it. You'll never be
Anything
there.
to kind of make the process a little faster?
Yeah, just make as much music as you can, which is a mistake I made.
Huh.
Act, yeah, make as much music as you can, make it as fast as you can. Don't give a shit about results every time.
Mhm.
It's important to, the more songs you finish, the more piece of music you finish, the more you learn, the quicker you move on and figure out what was wrong with the other one. It's almost like a self-help thing, the more mistakes you make, uh, the quicker you accelerate yourself towards a place where you make those mistakes less. So yeah.
Okay, nice. Actually, oh wow, I was gonna ask that too. What has been your favorite shows you've like performed so far?
Um, so there's been a few shows around the world. I would say one of my favorite shows in India was, I mean, most of my favorite shows were in Delhi, I would say initially, and then I think, are you in general? Let's see. So okay, I got it. So I would say over the last 10 years, my favorite show I played as Lifafa was a show in Kochi.
Yeah.
The Kochi Biennale, which was, I think, was it last year? Yeah, it was last year, Jan. Um, and I think there was like whatever 300 people there. We were playing in this. I was playing in this big wooden tent kind of situation.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and it just all came together. The songs. I don't think I'd ever performed in Kochi, and the crowd was amazing. And I think everybody was enjoying themselves. I was really enjoying myself. And I just felt really good at that moment. As a Lifafa show, there've been many of them, and then I think for Peter Cat, there's been a lot of shows. But I would say more recently, like since we've been touring abroad, and it's
Mm-hmm.
been nice to just play to completely new people in the world. We we've had some amazing shows. I would say my favorite show of the past year would be one show we played in France this year, which we was it this year? Yeah, no, it was last year. Sorry, December, where we played in this place called LEC Mama, or is it LEC? Oh, it's basically just this massive 1,500 2,000 people venue. It looks like a weird palace inside. It was sold out and it was just cool. But it was everybody there was knew the songs and it was a nice moment. I just don't know. We had everything came together again. But it just keep there are some I don't know. Now I feel like I played so many shows. I can't remember it honestly.
Have you ever
Sorry.
have you ever tried to count those?
A good question. No, I just sort of average them now. It's for most of the years we hardly played any shows. So I would say it just accelerated like crazy. In the last 2 years, we played more shows than we played in 10 years, for example. Uh,
Mm.
uh, I would say I played probably close to 100 shows last year, which is almost one every 3.6 days. So, and before that, I would have played probably 100 shows in 5 years. So it's hard to count it.
That was fast math, A. And
Yeah.
B, isn't that like haven't you want like a break or something? That's a bit much, don't you think?
Yeah, but you can't take that break when you just sort of feel that sort of things are accelerating and there's momentum. That's the point. You can't take a break, even if you need to. I mean, if you need to, you take a break, but you have to sort of like capture the momentum. It doesn't come every time. It comes in waves, and you have to sort of ride the wave when it's happening. Otherwise, yeah, it's tough. That's an important part of all these in this career. When you sense there's momentum building in your career, you have to capitalize on it. Or you waste a few years again, and then you have to rebuild that. I guess it's almost like building some sort of orgasm for your career, and
Uh-huh. Absolutely.
if it's sometimes it just passes, and okay, cool, you can start again.
Mm-hmm.
But if you do hit it, things can just change rapidly. That's what I'm saying.
Okay. Oh, by the way, guys, we have like 10 minutes more, so if you wanna maybe just drop it. Okay, so have you ever had like performance anxiety? I mean, I know you've done a lot of shows and but still, like, does that ever hit for you? Still?
I don't. I would say for some reason I've never really had performance anxiety, but I would also say that that's because I used to drink a lot on stage. So I, in a sense, I would say I don't get performance anxiety, but I do get scared that I'll be bored on stage.
Huh.
Yeah, so I'm always worried that I'm not emoting or emoting enough with my performance. So that's why I used to drink essentially to sort of get back in the mood and have some emotional out something happening because it gets tiring. You're playing the same songs. Sometimes it's like work. It is work. I mean, you're
Yeah,
playing
it
the
is
same
quite
song for
literally.
many so many songs the same way. It's hard to sort of motivate yourself to be that way. So yeah, I would say I've never been someone who had stage performance exactly. Although I still really suck at interacting with the crowd.
Uh-huh. What do
And
you
actually it's gotten worse as I've gotten older. I don't know. I've sort of reached this point in my life where I just go on stage and I have this show and be whoever I am on stage and I like to leave.
Hmm.
Yeah. And I've just gotten over the whole, hey, how are you guys? How we doing? It's not something which I found natural. And there's nothing
Uh-huh.
wrong with it. It's great. But
Oh, of course, of
for me,
course.
I'm actually a very private person. So in this situation, it's funny because my job is to literally be naked in front of people.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so yeah, in a way, I feel like that suits me. Like not being also, sometimes you talk too much and you out yourself as an idiot. So it's better to just do what.
It's okay. Like you said, shouldn't be scared of criticism. So,
Yeah.
honestly, I don't think it's such a big deal. I think that's your thing. You did your job, you
Yeah, of course.
performed, and you should go back home if that's what you want to do. Like, I don't think,
Yeah, exactly.
right? If people pay to interact, that should be a separate thing altogether. Like paying to,
Um,
they came to like listen to you. So,
yeah.
um, Hardik is asking any idea when the next Peter Cat recording co-album will come out.
Oh, very soon.
Very soon. That's very ambiguous.
Very
I also
soon.
wanted to ask you, what about the merchandise on petercatrecordingcompany.com? Why
Yeah.
these are sold out? I can't really get my hands on those vinyl.
Yeah, that shit sells out really fast, but well, we're actually setting up a proper India store this year, hopefully.
Hmm.
We we're gonna have a much better. I would say we're gonna have a proper store this year set up with more merchandise. So I think it should be easier. But generally, the problem has been that the vinyls just they get just sold out immediately. Whenever they come to India also or anywhere, and we never really. I'm never a big fan of t-shirts.
I,
But we
s-
start.
I love that Bismillah kurta. मुझे वो
Oh yeah,
चाहिए था, but when I was there on the website, it was sold out.
yeah. That's shocking. It sold out actually because I thought it was pretty ugly. But we're gonna make it again. I mean, it wasn't ugly. It's just like the way Bismillah was printed was so bad.
Hmm.
It was just, yeah.
And Bismillah is again a word used by someone in your family, right?
Yeah, so my father-in-law basically likes to say Bismillah when he's about to take a drink.
Oh, okay.
Which
Okay.
is, I mean, it
Lovely.
is a bit,
Lovely.
which is why that album cover is him opening that bottle of champagne.
Opening, yeah, exactly. Huh.
So he's saying
Okay.
Bismillah.
Now it makes sense.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Just in general, as an artist, do you like, is your drive more personal than social, or what is it? Like, where do you draw inspiration from, or what do you see yourself? What role do you see yourself playing? If that makes sense.
Hmm. So there's the fantasy, and then there's the reality, and then there's why it's actually happening. Um, so I would say the fantasy would be to be some sort of person who moves culture forward and someone who becomes part of this cultural history of the world and your own land and all that stuff. That's a fantasy, right? You become something which mattered like that. And then there's the reality is what I am, and how much I can push that forward. And then when you ask me the drive, I would say that's a very unclear. There's a very unclear reason why I'm a musician. To me myself, I feel like it's almost like a bimari, where I don't really know what drives me towards music, except that I have the need. Uh, so for example, I hear music in my head. Like, so when I hear music in my head, that's like something propels me to bring that into reality. So there's something interesting about art, which is, that I think it literally, well, not art, but every humans in general, which is that we have the ability to transform, which is non-corporeal or doesn't exist, into reality. Nothing else can do that. Even nature struggles to do that. Well, I guess we're nature, but so there's a part of this weird. I'm not a very like cosmic kind of dude, but I do feel there is a strange signal. I feel like I'm listening to, and I should answer that. And yeah, like I said, I hear music in my head. So as long as I hear music in my head, I'll continue to make music. But I think the day it stops, then I probably
Okay,
won't be a musician. Yeah,
that is so sad.
but it will at some point. You're like, uh, I don't know. Do you guys know who Brian Wilson is?
Mhm,
He's this guy who founded this band called the Beach Boys.
mhm.
He's one of the most amazing songwriters of all time, and he's 81 now. And he
Sounds
went through a
fun.
crazy life. You should read his biography. He's really led an insane life. But it's only now he said that like I can't really hear the music. He's also got dementia now, so maybe he can't tell. But no, I mean, Brian Wilson is self-aware. He's an amazing human being. He makes fun of himself for that. And that's part of the
I
beauty of
love
growing
that.
old.
Mhm.
You grow old, stuff happens. You can't help it. But he was talking about it. He was like, I don't know if I can hear the music anymore. But for most of your life, you hear the music. I don't know if that makes sense.
No,
But yeah.
that makes total sense. I mean, would you say like you've written like your best music, maybe if you're in like during a bad time in your life? I'm just curious.
Oh, oh yeah. I mean, all the that's a good question. Actually, it's both. I would say I've written music when I had a really difficult time, and I've written music when I've been extremely happy.
Oh, that's
Or
okay.
had it's for me at least. It's extremity. So like in the middle, that's why I don't release a lot of music. Excuse me, I don't release a lot of music because I think in the middle when I'm just sort of plateaued as a human being and stuff
Mhm,
isn't happening, I don't feel a lot of things, and then sometimes stuff starts happening, and I don't know. It's a very I like the way I was describing my filmmaking. I'm kind of a very not an active participant in making my
mhm.
music. There's a
Okay.
lot of like waiting, and seeing what my mind does and like what I come up with, and I just wait. Yeah.
Honestly, I think that's so much better. Like, even as a listener, I'd much rather like wait even like years for an album to drop that is actually good than probably constantly listening to new music and it's not as great.
Yeah, I mean that's what I believe too.
Mhm.
I think it's a very valuable thing. A song. I treated each song quite special. And, yeah, it's like a little baby.
Oh, and just one last thing. Okay, so any more advice you would give for upcoming musicians who want to make music and
Hmm. I think
or filmmakers actually for that matter?
mm, advice. I mean, honestly, like I don't have any good advice. I guess uh no, because honestly, I have not followed. I would not hold myself to a good model of someone who has followed a good career trajectory. I think I've done it very complicated for myself. You see, I'm a bad person to ask because I really don't belong to the industry. So if you're going to do it, I think okay, I'll tell you one thing which I still struggle with, which I would advise. I think if you're going to do it,
Mhm,
really give yourself completely and play the character and play the role and don't half do it in many
mm,
ways. Like I invest in all aspects. If you really, for example, if you want to be a pop star, invest in all aspects of what that means, which means
mm,
think about how you want to be looked at, how you want to be seen, think of the ways you are photographed, think of the sound, think of the
mhm,
whole package and invest yourself fully in it
mhm.
uh, without shame, unabashedly. It's your life. So you should absolutely fully invest in how you want yourself to be seen and what you want to do with your life. Just don't take, I would just say don't do it half-heartedly, like, and the thing you really want to do, yeah, just fully immerse yourself in it without shame. Whether people say like, at least in my case, I've struggled with that because I think some people would be like, "Oh, you're so self-involved. You think so much of this," and some people would be. But I think it's important to just accept who you are at some level and fully invest in
Mhm.
yourself. And sometimes that means you have to not work out with people. Sometimes it works out, but you have to absolutely accept yourself. It's your life.
Mm-hmm. I think it's okay to be self-involved in this case. You're inspiring a lot of people, so
Yeah, but it's tougher for partners to deal with that.
I get it. Okay, so we're gonna end this, but if you all still wanna ask any,
I've got one last question.
boom.
Yeah, I have
So,
time for one more. Let's go.
since we're talking about feedback, this is a very specific question in relation to one very specific concert that you did. And since we're
Mhm.
talking about feedback, since we started this conversation there, and at the risk of sounding like a complete idiot by saying too much, I wanted to ask that the concert that
Mhm.
you did in Bombay in December as Lifafa,
Yeah.
did you do something different there? Because I've only been able to attend 3 of your concerts, right? 2
Yeah.
Lifafa, 1 Peter Cat. And
Yeah.
something about the Bombay one this December felt different. And to
Was
be
was it good,
completely
different, or
honest,
bad,
I'm
different?
underwhelmed. So did you
I
do
think
something differently?
no. I think more honestly, I think so. I think I was just A, tired, and B, I just think I wasn't excited about performing. Uh, and I think that's also because I want to work on new music and perform new music.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it was also like I was coming off this long Peter Cat tour, and for the
Yeah.
last 3 years, I've spent a lot of my energy on finishing a Peter Cat album,
Mm.
and somewhere in the middle of a Lifafa album. But you also have to do gigs, to
Yeah.
keep your living. So sometimes it's not going to be a Hail Mary moment. Sometimes it's really it's like you're doing a job and
That's what
you
our
do
guest
the
was too. I just wanted to clarify.
yeah, it's that's what I was saying. Like I'm extremely transparent in that sense. You can tell
Can
You
tell.
when
could tell.
I'm there or not, So I think it's just a matter of that.
Mm.
Yeah, we're ready.
Okay. I just
Thank
want to
you.
say thank you so much for coming and
You're welcome.
being so honest with everything. And thank you for doing what you do. And you're inspiring a lot of people. And I fucking
Oh,
love
that
your music. Just forgot to add that in the midst of all this.
awesome.
And yeah, take care. You have
Okay,
like a
take care.
concert soon, right? If I'm not wrong, tomorrow or something.
No, no
Sure.
concerts anytime
Okay,
soon.
okay. Okay, cool. Anyways, thank you everyone else for coming as well. And this
Yeah,
will go on YouTube eventually.
awesome.
Okay.
Cool.
Bye.
See
Take
you
care.
guys. Bye bye.